The week my brother removed me from the family group chat, I was sitting in my car in the parking garage at work, eating a sad desk salad I hadn't gotten around to eating at my actual desk. My phone buzzed. I looked down. The notification said I'd been removed from Caldwell Family Important Updates by my brother. I stared at it for a second. Then I kept eating my salad. That's the part I think about now. Not the anger, not the confusion. Just me, sitting there under fluorescent parking garage lighting, chewing romaine, watching the notification disappear. I didn't text him. I didn't call my mom. I just thought, okay. And something that had been coiled tight in my chest for about 3 years quietly loosened. Let me explain what the group chat actually was, because that matters. My family owns a small commercial cleaning company. My parents started it in 1994 in suburban Ohio, built it into something real over 30 years. About 60 employees, contracts with office parks, a few small medical facilities, a school district. Boring industry, reliable money. My dad semi-retired 5 years ago and handed day-to-day operations mostly to my brother, who is 38 and has always believed he was born to run things. My mom stays involved in the vendor relationships because she doesn't trust anyone else with them, and she's probably right. I'm the youngest. I'm 31. My title on paper is Operations Coordinator, which sounds like I schedule supply orders, and yes, I do that. But I also hold the vendor contracts, the bonding documentation, the insurance certificates. And, most importantly, I'm the second signatory on the business banking account, and the one named on the line of credit we use for payroll float. My brother set it up that way 4 years ago when he wanted to look like he was delegating. He didn't think about what it meant to actually give someone that access. I'm also the one who spent 8 months last year renegotiating our biggest contract, a 15-year renewal with a commercial property management group that handles 4 office parks in the Columbus area. That contract was worth about $2.3 million over the life of the renewal. The signing was scheduled for the second Friday of March. The group chat removal happened on a Tuesday, 10 days before the signing. Here's the thing about being removed from a family group chat when you're an adult with your name on a business bank account. It's not just rude, it's a signal. It tells you where you actually stand. And when you've been wondering about that for a few years, watching your brother make decisions without consulting you, watching your mom side with him automatically, watching your own contributions get absorbed into the general category of family effort without individual acknowledgement, the signal is almost a relief. At least it's honest. The context behind it, since I know you're going to want it. About 6 weeks before the chat removal, there had been a dinner. My parents' house, Sunday, the usual. My brother announced he was bringing on a friend of his. Someone named Joel, who had 0 industry experience, as a co-director. I asked what that meant for the organizational structure. My brother said it meant Joel would be handling client development. I asked how that intersected with my contract renewal work, since I was actively in negotiations. My brother said, and I'm quoting as closely as I can remember, "You handle the paperwork side. Joel's going to work on the relationship side." I had been managing the relationship side of that renewal for 8 months. I had sat in 11 meetings with their facilities director. I knew her coffee order. I didn't make a scene at dinner. I said okay and helped clear the plates. Over the following weeks, I noticed things shifting. Emails where I'd been on the thread were getting responses that CC'd Joel instead of me. A vendor call I'd set up got rescheduled without my knowledge, and I found out because the vendor called me directly to confirm and I didn't know what she was talking about. I asked my brother about it. He said he'd forgotten to loop me in. He said it twice, for 2 separate things, which meant it wasn't forgetting. The week before the chat removal, I asked my mom directly whether there was something I'd done wrong or whether there was a conversation happening that I wasn't part of. She said I was being sensitive. She said the business needed to grow and that meant bringing in new people. She said Joel had a lot of energy and connections. 3 days later, group chat removal. I went home that night and I sat with it. Not spiraling, not crying. I'd done a lot of that in the previous months. Privately, in the shower, in my car, in the way you do when something is wrong, but you can't name it exactly. By the time the chat notification came, I was past the grief stage. I was somewhere quieter. I thought about what I actually controlled. The contract signing was in 10 days. My name was on the paperwork as the authorized signatory for our company, because I had negotiated it and the property management group's legal team had built the document with my name on it. Changing the signatory on a commercial contract that late in the process would require their legal team's approval, a new signature page, and at minimum a 2-week delay. I knew this because I'd asked early in the process whether my brother should be named instead, and their attorney had said any change at this stage would reset the review clock. My name was also on the line of credit that would be used to cover the first 90 days of the contract's expanded scope before the billing cycle caught up. My brother knew we had a line of credit. I'm not certain he knew my authorization was required to draw on it. I didn't make any moves that night. I just sat there and thought about it. I texted my brother the next morning. Short, neutral, "Hey, can you tell me why I was removed from the family chat?" I wanted to give him a chance to explain. I wanted to be wrong about what was happening. He texted back 4 hours later. "Mom and I talked. We think it's better to keep business stuff in the business channel and keep the family chat more personal. Nothing against you." I replied, "Okay." He sent a thumbs up emoji. I sat with that for a while too. There was no business channel. He'd never mentioned one. The family chat had always been where logistics got coordinated. Holiday schedules, yes. But also, can you print the insurance cert for the Tuesday site visit, and we need to push the Wednesday check run, Dad's not in. It was a cover story, and not a good one. Which told me he didn't think I'd push back. Or maybe that he didn't think I was paying attention. I had been paying attention for 3 years. I'd just been quiet about it. I called my point of contact at the property management group that morning. Not their attorney, just the facilities director I'd been working with. Because I genuinely liked her and I wanted to give her a heads up, not create a problem. I told her there had been some internal changes at our company and I wanted to confirm the signing was still on track on their end. She said absolutely, everything looked good. She was looking forward to getting it done. I said me too. I didn't say anything else to her. I just needed to hear her voice, hear that nothing had changed on their end, hear that all those months were still intact. Then I went and talked to our business attorney. Not my family's attorney, our company's attorney. The one who handled the contracts. I explained the situation. I explained that I had been removed from internal communications, that a new person was being brought in whose role overlapped with mine, and that I was uncertain whether my position in the company was stable going into a major contract signing. I asked what my exposure was. I asked what the company's exposure was if the signatory situation became complicated. She was very measured. She said I should make sure my authorization documentation was current, which it was. She said that if I chose to remove myself as signatory before the signing, I had every right to do so, but I should be aware of the downstream effects. She said I should make sure any decision I made was clearly documented. She did not tell me what to do. She didn't have to. I went back to the office. I did my work, I answered emails, I acted completely normal for 8 days. On the 9th day, I submitted a formal notice to our banking institution that I was resigning my authorization on the business line of credit, effective immediately. I did this correctly, with the right forms, documented and submitted through proper channels. The bank was required to notify the primary account holder, which was my brother. That notification went out the same afternoon. On the 9th day, I also sent an email to the property management group's legal department, copied to their facilities director, copied to my company's attorney, not copied to my brother, informing them that due to an internal transition, I would no longer be serving as authorized signatory for our company and that they should contact our primary business representative to discuss next steps before the scheduled signing. I sent both of these at 4:47 in the afternoon. I closed my laptop. I drove home. I made pasta. I watched something on TV that I couldn't tell you now. I slept fine. My phone started going off at 7:22 the next morning. My brother first. "What did you do?" Not a question. A statement. Then my mom, 6 minutes later, call me right now. Then my brother again, Elise, call me. My name is Elise, by the way. 31 years old, operations coordinator, former second signatory on a family business bank account. I did not call either of them. I texted my brother, I resigned my authorization on the line of credit and notified the property management group that I'm no longer a signatory. Given the recent changes to my role, it seemed appropriate. He called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. My mom called. Voicemail. My brother again. Voicemail. I was at work by this point. A different coffee shop, not the family office, because I'd been working remotely more often in the past few weeks for reasons I didn't need to explain to anyone. I ordered a coffee and I sat by the window and I watched my phone accumulate missed calls the way snow accumulates, quietly, steadily, until you can't ignore what it adds up to. By noon, I had 11 missed calls between my brother and my mom. My dad called once. He almost never calls, and that one I almost answered. Almost. At 12:34, an email came from the property management group's attorney to my company's attorney, CC'd, to their facilities director. The subject line was Caldwell Commercial Services, signing status. Their attorney was requesting clarification on the signatory situation and whether the scheduled signing could proceed as planned. He noted that per the contract terms, any change to the authorized signatory required written consent from both parties and a minimum 5 business days for documentation review. He said they were happy to accommodate a brief delay if needed, but wanted to understand the situation. 5 business days. The signing was 3 days out. I was not copied on that email. My company's attorney forwarded it to me as a courtesy. At 1:15, my brother sent me a text that said, "The closing is going to fall through. Do you understand what you're doing to this family?" I read it twice. I thought about 8 months of meetings. I thought about the facilities director's coffee order. Oat milk latte, 1 sugar. I thought about the Sunday dinner where my 8 months of relationship work got rebranded as the paperwork side. I thought about the group chat notification, me in my car, my sad salad. I texted back, "You told me to focus on the paperwork side." I did. He didn't respond to that. My mom sent a long message around 2 p.m. I'll summarize, because some of it was things I don't need to repeat out loud, but the core of it was, I was being vindictive. I was hurting the whole family over a petty slight. Joel had nothing to do with my role. She didn't understand why I was threatened by him. She said I had always been difficult. She said she and my dad had sacrificed everything for this business, and I was tearing it apart. I read the whole thing. I set my phone face down on the coffee shop table and I looked out the window for a few minutes. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't type back a paragraph-by-paragraph response. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain the 8 months or the rescheduled vendor call or the CC pattern or the dinner or the 4-hour text response. You cannot explain yourself to someone who has decided that your clarity is aggression and your boundaries are drama. I had learned this the slow way over years, and I wasn't going to unlearn it in a coffee shop at 2 p.m. because they finally felt the weight of what they dismissed. I texted my mom, "I hope you're able to work it out." She called 3 times after that. I let them go. My company's attorney called me at 3:30. She was calm, professional, just updating me. The property management group had agreed to a postponement of up to 15 business days to allow the signatory issue to be resolved. She said my brother had contacted her and asked whether there was any way to expedite my return as signatory. She said she'd told him that was between him and me. She asked me what I wanted to do. I told her I was resigning from the company and would not be returning as signatory or in any other capacity. I asked her to help me draft a formal separation letter. She said she could have a draft to me by end of day Friday. She asked if I was okay. I said yes, and I meant it, which surprised me a little. The calls that afternoon hit 23. By the time I went to sleep that night, I had 29 missed calls and a voicemail from my dad, actual voicemail, which he'd never left before, that I listened to sitting in my kitchen with the lights off. His voice was quiet. He said he didn't understand what had happened, but he wanted to talk to me. He said he loved me, He didn't ask me to come back to the company. He just said he loved me and he wanted to understand. I cried then. A little. Not for the business, not for my brother, not even for my mom. For my dad, who built that company with 30 years of 6 a.m. mornings and had to leave a voicemail in the dark asking what went wrong. I called him back 2 days later. We talked for an hour. He listened in a way I don't think my brother or my mom had listened to me in a long time. He didn't fix anything. He couldn't. But he heard me, and that mattered more than I expected it to. The contract signing was rescheduled. My brother eventually had to bring in an outside attorney to redo the signatory authorization paperwork, which took 9 business days and cost the company a restructuring fee. The property management group did extend the timeline. They'd invested too much in the relationship to walk away. But their facilities director told me later, in a personal call after I'd officially separated from the company, that it had been a stressful few weeks on their end and she was glad it resolved. She didn't ask me to come back. She wasn't in a position to. But she told me if I ever started something of my own, she wanted to have coffee. I did start something of my own. 6 weeks after I left, I registered a new LLC in the state of Ohio. I filed the paperwork at the county clerk's office on a Tuesday morning in April. There was one other person in the waiting area, an older man registering what looked like a food truck business based on the form he was filling out. The clerk who processed my filing had a sticker on her name badge that said, "Ask me about notary services," with a little star. She handed me my certified copy and said congratulations. I said thank you and meant it down to my bones. I've had 3 client conversations since then. One is a referral from the facilities director, not her company directly, a conflict of interest issue, but a contact she trusted who was looking for exactly what I do. The scope is smaller than the $2.3 million contract. It doesn't matter. It has my name on it from the beginning. I still haven't spoken to my brother. We've exchanged exactly 2 emails about the formal separation, both drafted through our respective attorneys, both civil in the way that legal documents are civil because they have to be. My mom texted me once, about 6 weeks after everything, a short message that didn't apologize but acknowledged that things had gotten out of hand. I thanked her for reaching out. I didn't say more than that. People sometimes ask me, not often, because I haven't told many people this whole story, but sometimes, whether I regret how I handled it, whether I could have done something differently that might have led to a better outcome. I think about that honestly. I could have had a different conversation at that Sunday dinner. I could have escalated sooner, been less patient with the slow erosion. Maybe if I'd said something louder earlier, things would have shifted. Maybe not. Some systems don't shift. Some families have already decided who you are and what you're worth, and no amount of correct behavior rearranges that. What I don't regret is staying quiet long enough to know exactly what I was dealing with. I don't regret acting deliberately instead of reactively. I don't regret the accuracy of what I did. Not vindictive, not excessive, just a clean removal of something I'd been offering freely for years, and that had been taken for granted so completely that no one even noticed it was a choice. The morning I signed my LLC paperwork, I sat in my car in the parking lot outside the county clerk's office, and I thought, this is mine, not ours, not the family's, not something I'm holding together on behalf of people who see me as infrastructure, mine. I didn't cry. I didn't feel the need to. I'd done my crying months ago, in the shower, in my car, in the slow accumulation of moments where I understood something I didn't want to understand. That morning, I just felt the particular quiet of a decision that's completely finished. No open questions. No hoping someone changes their mind. Just a clean document with my name at the top, and a parking lot, and a coffee going cold in the cup holder, and whatever comes next. There's a version of this story where I stay, where I swallow the Sunday dinner moment, where I accept being reassigned to the paperwork side without comment, where I keep showing up and doing the work and hoping that eventually someone notices. I know that version well. I lived it for 3 years. The thing about being the quiet, capable one in a family business is that your reliability gets mistaken for unconditional availability. Every time I absorb something without complaint, The rescheduled vendor call, the CC pattern, the slow erosion of my role. I was communicating something I didn't intend to communicate. I was saying, "This is fine. I can take more. There is no limit here." I wasn't saying that, but that's what got heard. What I've come to understand is that how people treat you is, in part, a reflection of what you've taught them to expect. My brother didn't wake up one day and decide to sideline me. It happened gradually because I let small things pass, and each small thing that passed became the new normal, and the new normal kept shifting until I looked up and realized I was being removed from a group chat 10 days before a contract signing I had spent 8 months building. That's not a story about a bad brother. It's a story about a slow drift that I participated in, and a moment when I finally decided to stop drifting. The cause and effect of what happened is pretty clean, once you lay it out. My family assumed my contributions were structural, like load-bearing walls, always there, not a choice anyone made. When they removed me from the chat, they weren't thinking about what I actually controlled. They were thinking about social hierarchy, about who was in and who could be managed. They hadn't mapped out the actual dependencies, that gap between what they assumed and what was real. That was the whole thing. That's where the 29 missed calls came from. I don't think I was particularly brave. I think I was just finally honest about what the situation actually was. And there's something clarifying about letting go of a version of yourself that only exists to be useful to people who never ask whether you're okay. The LLC I registered, that was the intelligence part, if I'm being honest. Not the resignation, not the signatory removal. Those were just accurate responses to a situation I'd finally seen clearly. The intelligence was building something new before the grief of the old thing had fully settled. Showing up at the county clerk's office on a Tuesday morning with paperwork that had only my name on it, answering the facilities director's coffee invite. Doing the work again, from the beginning, on my own terms. What I'd say to anyone in something similar is this. The moment you realize you've been treated as infrastructure rather than a person, you have a choice about what to do with that information. You can try to renegotiate your value to people who've already decided what you're worth, or you can quietly take inventory of what you actually hold, what you actually built, what has your name on it, and start from there. I chose the second one, and the morning I drove away from that county clerk's office, coffee going cold in the cuff holder, certified copy folded in my bag, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. I felt like I was going somewhere,